After France, unrest in Germany. No second chance for Chancellor Olaf. All goes right for far right in Europe. Can snap elections snap Germany on track?
Our second conversation on Global Mirror tonight. Europe has plunged deeper into political instability, and economic challenges. The German government has collapsed after Chancellor Olaf Scholz lost a historic vote of confidence in the German parliament, paving the way for early elections. The embattled Chancellor got only 394 MPs voting in favour, while 207 went against him. He needed these many votes to stay in power. In fact, 116 MPs abstained, and that is where he lost that no-confidence motion. Interestingly, Olaf Scholz had himself called for the no-confidence vote that triggered fresh polls. Scholz's three-way traffic light coalition, as it was called, collapsed in November after Free Democrats or FDP quit in protest over the Chancellor's sacking of the Finance Minister, Christian Lindner, over deep disagreements around debt management. Now, this move left Germany with a minority government of Scholz's Social Democrats or SDP and the Greens at a time when the country is grappling with a deep economic crisis and geopolitical uncertainty. President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has dissolved the parliament. Elections will be held in February 2025, and Olaf Scholz is hoping to come back stronger. Remember, all of this is unfolding as the world awaits the inauguration of the next US President, Donald Trump. Germany is bracing for uncertainties, including large trade tariffs and a review of military aid to Ukraine. So that political chaos and uncertainty has now gripped Germany as well, remember, after France. So Europe plunging deeper into political instability. Let's try and get an understanding of what's been happening. On Global Mirror, I'm joined by St-Pierre, CEO of MOSECON, joining us from Berlin in Germany. Good evening, namaskar. Thank you very much for speaking with us on Global Mirror. Can I understand from you, St-Pierre, what has been happening in Europe, particularly in Germany, is a cause of concern because France and Germany are considered the two motor engines of the European Union, of the development that Europe sees every year. With Germany now plunging into political instability, how is this entire situation going to be moving forward?
Well, good evening. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, that's an excellent question, one that has been asked by many before. I guess the best answer is now that Germany will have elections, it's probably going to be, regardless of the outcome, more stable than the current instability that was brought about by the coalition. A lot of the projects, a lot of the decisions that were made in Germany had to be strenuously negotiated for very long periods of time. And very often, even if something was agreed upon, there were going to be changes or some partners backing out at the last second, which would, again, hinder the process. And this was going to have would create difficulties both domestically and also at the European level. For Europe, of course, the timing is terrible because it's not only Germany, it's France also being very unstable politically. It comes, as you mentioned, with Trump being inaugurated in about a month. And as well, the different crises around the world in which Europe wants to be involved, tries to be a constructive partner, and therefore having its two biggest governments facing this instability is difficult. But I would say that right now the situation is a bit more unclear in France than it is in Germany, because even if Germany is without a government for the next 3 months, I think the stability that would come after the elections is probably will be better received than what is happening in France right now.
You know, what's also interesting, Jan, is the fact that Olaf Scholz called for this no-confidence motion himself. He wanted to trigger fresh snap elections in the country. Was it some sort of strategy on the part of Olaf Scholz to sort of come in with a new government in the country so that it can tackle the kind of economic challenges that Germany is facing at the moment?
It's hard to say that it's a strategic choice. I think his hand was forced. Obviously, there are enough allegations right now that one of the coalition partners, the Liberal Democrats, the FDP, deliberately sabotaged the government by trying to force the Chancellor's hand into sacking the finance minister, which is the leader of that party. That creates a situation where, strategy sort of comes out of the way because the polls are certainly not favorable for the Chancellor or his party. It certainly opens the door for the Christian Democrats, for the Union, the Conservative Party, to take over again the government. So I guess in terms of strategy, Chancellor Scholz's goal had probably been to wait until September, until the next summer, to be able to try to change his poll numbers until then. But unfortunately, his hand was forced, and now he's trying to make the best of a very difficult situation for him.
You know, now that Germany is going to be seeing a fresh election in February 2025, of course, political parties in the country will be in campaigning mode. They're going to be reaching out to the voters. Of course, economic challenge and economic instability is one of the major issues that Germany is grappling with, apart from the war that is going on. The issues, if we talk about, Jan, what would be the political parties talking about when they go out and talk to German citizens?
Well, this morning, all four major parties presented their programs, and they're targeting very different parts of the electorate. The Green Party, is focusing on inflation, trying to make it has its classic program of being more to the left, environment friendly, but in the end, it's about purchasing power in Germany. Whereas the Christian Democrats are now focusing a lot more on themes that are probably closer to what the AfD is proposing. It's the migration issue, making sure that it's about performance, limiting the welfare state. The SPD is trying to present itself as the party to go to for its older demographics. So that means people who are now about to enter retirement age or already is facing retirement. So it's about improving the living conditions of pensioners. Whereas the FDP, the Liberal Democrats, are trying to salvage or find a way to creep over that 5%, targeting, again, efficiency, digitalization, maybe a younger demographic that could turn to
All right, there seems to be a network issue there, Jan, with you. We'll try and reconnect with Jan St-Pierre, who's joining us from Germany, explaining to us what has been going on. All right, I believe we have Jan back with us on the broadcast. Jan, if you could hear me, please go ahead.
Yes. Apologies that it broke up. But yes, so in general, I think all four main parties and the broader parties will focus on security as a whole. So security for the buyers, for the consumers, security in terms of raw physical security, whether it's war. In general, it's about reassuring the German public and trying to create circumstances where they feel that they can trust institutions, trust political parties to recreate what was perceived as probably better conditions under Chancellor Merkel.
There are also, a certain trend that has been seen in Europe, Jan, the rise of the far right. In fact, the rise of the two extremes has been seen in the last few years. How do you see that really, moving forward, panning out in Germany in the next elections?
That's a very good question. I think there are two factors here. First, how much will the mainstream parties tap into the programs of the far right? So what we've seen not only in Germany but in France and other countries is that because a lot of the parties are fighting for that 1%, 2%, or 3% margin that could put them on top, either give them a majority or make them the bigger parties. They've been often tapping into the programs of far-right parties, trying to tap into that electorate that goes to vote. I think that's very important to know that most conservative strands of the electorate, they go out and vote. There's no question about that. So tapping into those numbers is very important. The other part, I think, is that on the one hand, we know that far-right parties have tremendous success at the communal level. So whether it's provincial, whether it's cities, these parties have put up big numbers, but these numbers have yet to translate onto the national level. And so we see them usually lose a lot of percentage points when it comes to the national elections. Now, could Germany be the outlier in this trend? That remains to be seen, but we know that the far right has profited a lot of the crises in Germany right now. But it's difficult to see if their success, their local success, would actually translate at a national level where the electorate varies a lot more than in some provinces.
If we talk about the opponents and the front runners against Olaf Scholz, Jan, one of the names that pops up is Friedrich Merz. He's the head of the opposition Conservative Christian Democratic Union. How do you see his chances of, this battle that will now pan out in Germany? How do you see his chances of winning that election and defeating Olaf Scholz, who's himself looking for a comeback?
Yes, I think the comeback is a good word, but with Friedrich Merz, there's no doubt he's the absolute main candidate. It's actually his race to lose. It's right now, by any polls, you see the Christian Democrats having between 12 to 15 percentage points in lead. So that means, barring major mistakes, it's unlikely that he'll lose. The bigger question is who will be his coalition partners? Will we have to deal again with three partners in a government, or will he then turn, in this case, to the second party, which could be either the SPD or the Green Party? And that could complicate things in terms of a coalition, which would likely mean that Olaf Scholz could be the vice chancellor in this case. So could we see a degree of continuity? But right now it is the Christian Democrats' race to lose. It's very, very difficult to imagine anybody else right now becoming chancellor next March.
Would he actually agree to become vice chancellor, Jan? From chancellor to vice chancellor, would Olaf Scholz like that kind of a position for himself?
Well, I think technically he would probably be reluctant to change chairs, but I think if he's looking for a certain degree of stability, that we're also talking about a party, the SPD, the Social Democrats, that is very much in turmoil. It's a party that's looking for its identity, that has been ruthlessly divided by its positions, the various factions within the party about the war in Ukraine, how to deal with that. And as such, having a figure like Olaf Scholz that's been there for decades, probably to facilitate the transition from going to a governing party, and it would still remain a government party, but being the major party to a junior party, maybe the party could see him staying. Obviously, at a personal level, it's more difficult for him to stay, but I think there's still an opportunity for him to remain in government if the party chooses, wants him to stay there.
All right, let's see how this pans forward. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Jan St-Pierre, for joining us on Global Mirror and giving us an understanding of what's been going on. And for all the German I know, guten Tag to you and everybody there who's looking at a political instability for the next few months. Thank you very much, Jan, for joining us. All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on Global Mirror. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Up next is Neha Koshi with Beyond the Headline.